Hello everyone, and welcome to my Mist of Pandaria Priest leveling guide, where I'll talk about the different specializations, compare these, and also highlight the glyphs and talents I'm always using. When you reach level 10, you have to choose your specialization. You can choose between Discipline, Holy, and Shadow. Discipline does decent damage in the open world with penance, and it's also an amazing heal for when you have to do dungeon farms. Holy are mainly just for healing, but it's doing awful damage, so I would not recommend you to level as this specialization. Instead, choose Shadow, as this is the best for open world leveling. But if you would like to dungeon and heal, you could any day also play as Discipline. But you won't be able to dungeon farm until level 15. So between 10 to 15, you could easily level up as Discipline. You just apply Shadow Weight Pain to all the targets, do a couple of smites, and of course also penance whenever this is ready. As Shadow, you would like to pull all these targets. The damage over time is pretty insane, but as you're trying to stack them together, you would like to pull new targets with your Mind Flay. This requires you to stand still, but it also does a huge amount of damage. So all the other targets will simply die due to your damage over time, and the rest to your Mind Flay. But like I mentioned, in the beginning there isn't a huge difference. Not until level 24, where we unlock our Shadow form. This is where you'll be dealing even more damage, increasing your armor and haste. And now Shadow are starting to perform a lot better. Not just because of this, but because we're also getting 2 additional damage over time effects. For example, Vampiric Touch, which has a cast time, and Devouring Plague that requires your Shadow Orbs. In my opinion, this is such a fun specialization to level as, and what I really like is that I never really have any downtime where I need to wait for new mana, or well, where I need to drink. The quickest way to 90 is going to be by questing, but also farming at the same time, like I do right here. Whenever I'm leveling up a new class, I'm always using a leveling guide, and the one I'm using right here will work from level 1 to 90, no matter what class, race, and also faction you're playing. There's going to be a free version you can test out, and also a full version, and this you can get simply by using the redirect link below this video. By using this link, you will also get a discount if you purchase the full version. Moving on to my talent tree, this is how it looks like as Shadow, but if I'm healing as Discipline, I would choose this one here instead at level 75 and this one here at 45. The reason why I'm not choosing Dominate Mind is because I don't want to stand still and start CCing. This is mainly for PvP, and this is the same case with Psyfiend. It's also randomly fearing targets, and this is not great as it can body pull more and also prevent you from hitting them. And don't forget, we already have an AoE fear. So what I choose is Void Tendrils, as this only has a 30-second cooldown. I can use it to escape from a sticky situation, but also stack enemies together, so I can apply all my damage over time abilities without taking any damage. At level 30, I don't like Body and Soul, even though this is a passive, so you don't really have to do anything beside applying your shield, but it only lasts for 4 seconds. Where Angelic Feather is a 10 seconds recharge, and you can have a total of 3 charges. This also increases your speed all the way up to 80% and for 6 seconds, so this is way better as you can pretty much increase your speed at all times. This also makes it easier for you to stack the creatures together and use your Void Tendrils, but also when you have finished them off and need to move to the next target. Our last choice at level 30 isn't really great. Yeah, for PvP situations it could be, but as we're leveling, it won't really help us. At level 45, I usually go for this one here, as it will also increase the damage done by my Mind Flay when I'm using Devouring Plague. But Mindbender with only a 1 minute cooldown, and this pet also dealing a decent amount of damage, is absolutely great as well, especially if you struggle with your mana. I usually never choose from Darkness Comes Light, unless I'm leveling as Discipline in dungeons, as that passive, or well that proc, is pretty insane. I like Desperate Prayer when leveling up, as it has a 2 minutes cooldown, but instantly healing me for 30% health. This is great if I make a huge mistake, but also in PvP situations. Spectral Guise turns you invisible. This can also be good if you need to, for example, get away from PvP, but also if you need to get past a difficult area. I usually choose Angelic Bulwark, mainly because it's a passive, but be aware it also has a 90 seconds recharge whenever this procs. So if you don't like this, but you would much rather like to time when you would like to benefit from the heal, then go for Desperate Prayer. At level 75, you could go for Divine Insight if you're just killing 1 or 2 targets, or if you're playing Disciplined Priest. But if you like to chain pull many, I would not go for this talent. The other option is to get a 2 minutes cooldown. This is of course also great if you're combining it together with trinkets and other cooldowns to do a massive amount of burst damage. But in my opinion, Twist of Faith is way better, especially because of my playstyle where I'm pulling many targets at the same time and just multi-dotting. This is where I'll benefit more from this, as I'll basically have the buff all the time. What about my glyphs? Glyph of Reflective Shield is amazing, especially because it allows you to deal even more damage to everyone hitting you. You just gotta make sure you apply a new power word shield. Glyph of Levitate can be decent, as it's increasing your movement speed. When I'm fighting a difficult target, I like Mind Blast, so if I crit, I will also make that target unable to move for 4 seconds. Great for if you need to get away to do a heal and then get back into the fight. The last one is Glyph of Dispersion, as I feel like this is mandatory to get. As Discipline, you need to get this one so you can cast your penance as you're running, making you also able to actually do a bit more damage as you're leveling up, but I wouldn't recommend you to level as Discipline. What about minor glyphs? Well, most of these are basically just cosmetic, so it's not really gonna help you in any way, so choose whatever you like the most. At level 85 I'll do a quick comparison, but as you can see here, I'm not doing any great damage when leveling as Discipline. Remember, it's also not great to level in dungeons from 85 to 90, as you'll be missing many important quests and also factions you'll need to unlock. Therefore, you won't really benefit much from being able to heal as this specialization, as I wouldn't recommend you to be dungeon farming. Instead, you should just be questing, and of course, as Shadow Priest. Here I just apply my dots, spawn a new angelic feather, apply my dots to the next target, and then I start casting Mind Blast, Mind Flay, and finishing them off with my Shadow Word Death. When I need to spell cleave and deal with many targets at the same time, I pull with dots, I stack them together, use my Void Tendrils so they can't move, and I get some distance. Then I use my Mind Seer, as this will do damage to all nearby targets, making this specialization pretty decent for leveling. At least it's way better compared to Holy and Discipline. When you're going to do big pulls, I would also recommend you to pre-spawn your angelic feathers, so these will be up and you can start recharging new ones. Why? Well, then as we're doing these pulls, we can run into them, get the movement speed without having to cast a spell, or will get a global cooldown. So as you can see here, I've stacked them together, I use my Void Tendrils, I could use Mind Seer, but if I have to get away quickly, I don't really have to worry about casting these feathers. I can just move into them and get away quickly. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this priest leveling guide. If you would like to see leveling guides for the other classes, make sure to check out my channel. There you will also find many other useful videos and guides for Mist of Pandaria, and soon a lot more. As always, thank you so much for watching and have an amazing day. Peace.